Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds, and today I am hanging out with Gabe from Oppressed by the Sun, which you reached out to me a week or two ago, and you're like, "Hey, can I come on and talk about a thing?" And I'm like, "Sure." I've seen you in my live chats and leaving comments and stuff, so I'd be more than happy to talk about the thing.
Well, I'm really happy to be here, Dave, and thank you. So my name's Gabe. I'm from Oppressed by Sun. We're doing a podcast, and you can find us at oppressedbysun.com. Our podcast is just my friends. We've been playing for, I don't know, 15 or more years, and we've had a lot of people come in and out. But recently, we've had a few new people with a lot of energy, a lot of role playing, just a lot of fun. And so the game has never been better, and um, we decided to, try to build a community and share it with the world and see what other people thought of it and learn and get better. And Nerdarchy's always been something that I watch to learn about not just 5e, which we did not start with, but we started with homebrew systems and stuff that because we wanted a grittier feel, and we're very into realism. But when I watched other people talk about their games on 5e, watched games played in 5e, especially got some context from people like Dave and Nerdarchy and others like WebDM. I started to fall in love with it, and so that changed our whole outlook. And our latest campaign has been in that setting. Yeah.
So that's kind of an odd pivot because you were like, we're more in the realism and grittier, and 5e definitely isn't those things.
It definitely is not. And we used to play with 4 hit points total. Like, you're a level 15 character, you still got 4 hit points. And people would die all the time. But we don't. I think that it hurt the story of the game because it was difficult to build overarching narratives for characters when you knew those characters were very likely to die within the next few weeks. And it was very difficult to build the kind of stories, the kind of long-term stories that I always wanted to do with those systems. And so that's why we decided that maybe realism wasn't the main goal. I like story as the main goal. Although I still do some things for realism, like I'd use the variant rules, where 24 hours is required for a long rest, 8 hours for a short rest, and I often make spells more deadly than they are in the DMG.
So you guys are playing a heavily modified 5e, even if it is just using the optional rules.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you call using the variant rules heavily modified. Most people wouldn't say that using the variant human is heavily modified, but but yeah, we definitely use the grittier set of variant rules in the book. I find that it allows me as a DM to really push people to their limit a lot easier. If you're allowing them to get a short rest after every battle or a long rest after every battle, it's really difficult to put their resources on edge and to make it difficult for make it so that spellcasters have to ration their use of spells so that maybe the fighter doesn't want to use his action surge this battle because who knows what he might face before he's able to regain it and that kind of thing. Whereas if you sort of follow the standard D&D rules, the non-variant form, it feels to me just too easy almost. But that's just a personal opinion.
It's easy. It's hard to die in 5th edition. I mean, we have seen character death, but it is rarer and hard. And there's nothing wrong with playing with the optional rules. Like, they're there for just for that reason, to give you the kind of feel you want to have in your game. And if you're able to hit it with the systems already there, that works. If you're having fun as the GM and your players are having fun playing that style of game, then you're doing it right.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I came from a background and sort of a player base where the rules were sacrosanct, and sort of any variation from the rules or any variation from any fudging of die rolls was a criminal offense. It's nice to really the more recent development of these the YouTube community has taught me a lot of new perspectives on those types of matters, so that I'm rolling behind the screen all the time, and I don't want my characters to die. I'll just put it that way. Unless I've talked to them about it first and I've explained to them that there's a real chance of death in this scenario, and they are all going in there with their eyes open, I don't want them to die on some random critical or you know, whatever. Although we have gotten to two failed death saves multiple times, but you know, what can you do?
I try and drop characters. That's like my goal. Like, I don't go out of my way to do it, but like I feel much better about an encounter because I feel like because 5e is kind of, you know, it's hard to kill characters, and not that I really try to kill characters anyway, but I feel like they feel threatened when they've been dropped, and they've got 3 death saves to figure it out. Usually there's several, you know, healers kits in the party. There's usually at least 1 cleric, so you can pop people back up pretty easy, and if things go really bad, they can always run away.
Absolutely. Our party doesn't happen to have a cleric, which makes it a lot more difficult. They have a bard, but she almost always uses all her spells right away. And we also have a druid, but since he's almost always in wild shape, that also is it's a big cost for him to come over and cure. So yeah, they do have some issues occasionally with that, for sure. Especially if it costs you a wild shape or if it costs a spell that the bard is trying to hold on to.
Don't worry, Kelsey. Try a little harder. You'll get a PC yet. Said she hasn't killed. They said they hadn't killed anyone yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of killing a PC, I did kill a PC in this campaign. I wanted to introduce the big bad, which happens to be a golden dragon, and I talked to the PC about it first. He actually moved to China, and I knew that was happening. The other players didn't, but I knew that was happening, and I talked to him about it, and I said, "Look, there's going to come an encounter," and I didn't give any specifics, but there's going to come an encounter where it's very likely that at least one, if not more, of you are going to be. You know, there's going to be no escape. And so I want you to sort of watch for that opportunity and take it if there is a chance. And he agreed. You know, we talked about it, and he was able to distract the dragon just long enough for them to get down an Umber Hulk hole and nearly get decapitated by an Umber Hulk. But
out of the fire into the frying pan.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Then the paladins that were traveling with the gold dragon chased them down the hole, and they had to jump in a river and ended up in the Underdark.
So right now, do you guys play in person? Are you playing over the internet?
Yeah, so we play in person. It's my old group of friends that I've had since high school, and with some new additions. My brother, he lives in Houston, and he Skypes in, but everyone else is there in person. I feel that it's better that way.
This is the game. You guys are recording this and putting it out as a podcast? Absolutely,
yes, that's right. Yeah.
Awesome. And you also have a YouTube channel where you're putting up some video and some content there as well.
Yeah, I'm just getting started on that. I just put up the first video there, and go ahead and check it out if you want. But I really want to learn from you guys and to hear your feedback. My first video on the YouTube channel is about one of the NPCs in the game who betrayed the party and cost them a large number of allies with that betrayal. In the end, they decided, or at least so far, they've decided to allow him to live and not hunt him down. But he has an interesting story, and I thought it was an interesting perspective, that NPC. So I went ahead and made a video about it.
Cool. Yeah. So the thing with producing content and YouTube videos, for the most part, most people are going to be horrible for the first, 10, 20, 30, however many videos it takes for you to find your feet. And my advice to that is just keep going. Don't worry about it. Don't take down your bad videos. Just keep moving. Like, you can go back and find our earliest videos, and they're horrendous, but they're still up there.
Well, my friends did indeed watch the video and tell me it was the first one I put up was so bad. They were like, "You should just take it down. It's that bad." And I did in fact take that one down. I plan to re-record it perhaps. I'm sort of a perfectionist, Dave. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can just leave stuff out there that I don't want people to see. But I have seen your early videos. Some of the ones where we're mostly watching table, and the bottom side of Ryan's head. But but for me, I don't know. It's very difficult to it's very difficult for me to just let something go if it's not perfect.
So our approach to that is to never go back and watch what you did. Well, because the thing is too, like if you're constantly trying to make the perfect thing, right? You're gonna always be in that mode of making it perfect, and then you'll never actually get anywheres. It's the same thing. Like same thing with people building campaigns for D&D or any role playing game. Really, is like the only way to really learn how to do it is get in there and just do it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when I first started DMing, I was quite terrible. I'm sure of it. Although I remember myself as quite good. I'm looking back. I know that I didn't have the skills that I do today. And it took probably 10 years before I actually got skills that made me confident enough to invite people I didn't know to the game.
So, Oppressed by the Sun. So, is that the name of the campaign setting?
Yes, yes. The campaign setting is a desert world where the sun has conquered all of the independent nations and is seeking to unite the entire world under the banner of the light. But basically, there's a bunch of haughty paladins running around telling everybody that they're doing it wrong. And the PCs in this campaign are a group of rebels whose organization was decapitated by a government operation and now seek to undermine that government. And the truth is, the previous campaign that I ran in the same setting was set before sort of the takeover of the sun, of the paladins of the sun, of the lords of the sun. And in that campaign, there were a number of big bads. There were 3, in fact: a lich queen who still lives, a beholder flesh mage who harvested bodies from the material world and took them to his abyssal lair to build to merge them into a living sort of plane of existence he was building out of flesh. And they defeated that bad guy. But what that did, in fact, was take away the main sort of constraint upon the Sun Elves, who are the leaders of the Sun Empire. It took away their main sort of enemy, and they sort of just washed over the rest of the world after that. Once those heroes all died, basically fighting that flesh mage beholder in the abyss.
So someone asked, what are the PCs in your campaign?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kelsey. The PCs are a druid, a neutral druid, sort of a throwback second edition type true neutral druid, who wants to roll back the desert and to bring back sort of the green that used to rule, be in these lands. There's a fighter, and he was grown up in a guild, sort of a criminal guild according to the laws of the land, but sort of where they ran underground schools and also did black market stuff. And that guild was decapitated at the beginning of this adventure. So we have a fighter, then we have a bard, and she is sort of she left her family after becoming an embarrassment to her father, and well, not just an embarrassment, but a danger to her father, because she spoke out against the Sun government, and that threatened her father's sort of merchant livelihood. And then we have a moon elf assassin who is a very bloodthirsty. My brother plays that character. He tends to play characters who border on neutral evil, and have to be reined in constantly by those people with a conscience, and her background is very mysterious. She appeared out of nowhere. No one's seen moon elves, and so this part of the adventure will be sort of discovering her origin and her purpose.
Cool. Excellent.
So those are the 4. There's a 5th who died, who was a warlock.
Oops. So how long has the campaign been going, or did you kind of get a fresh start with the podcast?
No, so the podcast started at level 5, I think. This campaign has been going since October of last year or so. But before that, we played another maybe 2-year campaign in the same setting. Again, that was before sort of the takeover of the current regime. But yeah, so the setting has been around for 2.5, 3 years. And it sort of started with nothing, and I let the characters build it for a long time. But after a while, I sort of took the reins and built it out from the ideas that they were generating.
So, real quick, I'm going to divert a little bit here because there's a question in the chat for DMs. Someone has, they've got a session coming tonight, and they want some ideas. It's a tropical island, and there's a shark worshiping cult on the island. He's looking for ideas for encounters and for his adventure tonight without just using like animals.
Sea hags? That's what comes to mind when I think of an island encounter. Perhaps they're controlling the sharks, or at the top of the shark cult. I don't know.
That's actually a good idea, because that's like that's what hags do. So like I could definitely see a hag or a covey of hags setting up the cult, and like maybe there's actually nothing to the cult itself, but it amused them.
It's just a front. Yeah.
Yeah, they corrupt some influential people. Next thing you know, people are being fed the sharks. Hags pull up some lawn chairs and some wine bottles and enjoy the show.
Absolutely. They might just think that it's the best thing on TV, feeding cultists to sharks. So
they're like, it's Shark
I don't know
Week
that
every week. Oh yeah.
Shark Week every week. Yep.
So what inspired you? And I think he's getting some help in the chat as well. What inspired you to start doing this as a podcast and taking your basically your home game, your in-person game, and putting it out there for all of the internet?
Well, I've watched a lot of games online, and I watch the chat, and I see how people interact with it and how DMs sort of use that to learn and grow. And I want to do the same thing. I want to learn from the community. I want your feedback. I want to make it a better game. And I really want just other people to sort of in fact have anything to share, which I'm not 100% convinced of. But if I do in fact have anything to share, I'd love to share it with you guys, and sort of the communities that I see built in the D&D community are just so positive and so productive that I just felt inspired to sort of try to build one myself.
Well, I have to agree there. I mean, especially when online, you can run into all kinds of craziness and negativity, but for the most part, the RPG community is really good. There's a lot of good people out there, but I will tell you, it's going to be it is a lot of work if you're serious about building a community.
Yeah, I understand that. And I'm not so good at social media and such, but I'm dedicated to getting better, and I think this is an avenue of my life. My job is sort of stagnant, it's flatlined. There's nothing much to learn there. I know what I'm doing, and I really need an avenue for growth, an avenue to learn. So I think that this is sort of what called to me. So that's why I decided to launch it.
A creative outlet for you, filling a need there. That's awesome. Yeah. Like, I want to say the first 6 months of doing Nerdarchy, it was like crickets. So and then it was just really a matter of timing where 5th edition kind of dropped, and we're like, oh, there's a thing. I didn't even know 5th edition was coming out, to be honest with you. We had moved away from playing D&D for a while and moved into other systems. Actually, like you had said about doing, we'd been on a Mutants and Mastermind kick for a couple years. And then when my brother moved back, he wanted to run some Pathfinder with Dark Sun. So it wasn't until like we started doing Nerdarchy that we started looking around and go, hey, they're going to do another D&D apparently. And I was like, and they launched this free PDF thing. Let's take a look at that. And for us, it really worked because it was like, oh, look, this has all the things we actually like from all the editions of D&D rolled into one edition.
Yeah, I think they did a really good job with 5th edition, because my friends were quite skeptical of 5th edition initially. We had moved away from D&D, like I was telling you before the chat. We had moved away from D&D because It was just so much number crunching, so many rules, and you had to go look up everything every time you wanted to do something. And we sort of did a homebrew rule system where I just ruled on everything as it came up, and there was no argument because there was no book to refer to. But the new 5e sort of solved a lot of those problems, streamlined things, but kept what was great about D&D, the very unique classes, and it did a great job of balancing, which I was never good at in my homebrew system.
So I was just kind of caught by this one comment. It's just funny. Coldest in the shark costumes that chase the party around, chomping with their shark costume mouths, but which have metal sharp teeth, which makes me think of a episode of Scooby-Doo, to be honest with you.
It does. You meddling kids.
Yeah, like I had dropped in the chat, the idea of doing like doing were sharks or something, but now I'm like, it's even better than were sharks. An old man Jenkins dressed as a were shark. So definitely some fun to be had there. And now they're talking about summon a Sharknado, which I've seen some really cool terrain guys make Sharknadoes. So which
that doesn't even register. I don't even know what you mean by make a Sharknado.
The movie Sharknado?
I know what a Sharknado is, like in the sense that it does the concept, but I don't know how you make one in a terrain situation.
Well, so basically they made what looks like a cloud funnel with sharks swimming in it.
Okay.
I'm sure if you Google Sharknado D&D minis, I bet stuff will come up, and there's some really cool stuff that has come of that. Just when you're like, it's things that should not exist, and next thing you know, it is in your D&D game. That's what happens when your sea druid has totally lost it. Up with Sharknadoes.
Yeah, you got a water Ganassi and a storm sorcerer. You got all the unearthed arcana and every additional thing out there all involved in one character.
Oh yeah. There's your cult right there. It takes a cult to build a Sharknado.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah. What is this? I forget the name of the Sahagan god, which is like a giant shark. He should probably be behind it all. There you go. If you need more ideas. And you can Todd. I remember that came on. Was it Mega Shark versus the Sharktopus? And my daughter is the only one in my family that likes anything that's horror like. So we were watching it, and we kind of turned it into a game of, how people were going to die, if it was going to be from tentacles or teeth. So it was like a game of rock, paper, scissors, minus the rock. But so how long have you been working on your campaign? And have you always done homebrews?
No, we didn't always do homebrews. We had a second edition, 15 years ago campaign that my friend ran, and which was very successful. Although I don't know if you call it successful. My character ended up being a vampire who turned on the party and killed them all. But the successful in the sense that it was long running. But we also had a third edition campaign. We had multiple third edition campaigns, but they all seemed to fizzle out after we got in arguments about the rules. And that's when I decided I was not going to use D&D anymore because the rules were too ominous, too intrusive.
And what campaign settings were you guys using?
Well, it's always been homebrew. So
okay.
I've never used a published campaign setting, but I do watch campaigns online with those, such as Curse of Strahd, Perkins or whoever. But for me, the fun of the game is coming up with the setting. I mean, for me, that's the creative outlet. That's what makes me like interested in the game every week.
It's kind of the same for us. I mean, I've ran a little bit of stuff in Eberron just because I like that campaign setting, but for the most part, I'd rather do homebrew stuff. It's funny when we went on GM Tips, that's what our GM That's what our spotlight is going to be on Homebrew, and in like 2 months it'll come out or whatever. But you know, when we were talking to Matt Mercer, he's like, "Well, what are you guys going to be doing your GM tips about?" And we're like, "Homebrew is kind of what we do and what we like." He's like, "Me too." And I'm like, "Can you still call it a Homebrew after it becomes an official setting?" Because he's got
well, if you brewed it in your home, then I think you can call it a homebrew. No one else can.
Right. Well, it was exactly his response. He's like, "I'm the only one that can call it a homebrew now." Oh, yeah, I guess
absolutely.
That's why you're Matt Mercer. So Wacky Wilson has a question: tips on becoming a better narrator.
Oh, practice. But beyond the obvious answer, I do think that a little bit of preparation goes a long way, at least for me. Not in the sense of writing something out, which I have done and doesn't work well, but in the sense of having an overarching concept for the NPC, having an overarching concept for the place, having an overarching concept for the encounter you intend to run, and every time the players take an action or something happens, you relate it to that overarching concept. And I think that's what the key to good narration is. It's got to tie together in the end. Otherwise, it doesn't go anywhere.
Understand what your theme is and kind of stick with it. Practice. Watching, actually, this is one of the areas where watching gameplays is probably really beneficial to you, is watching other people's style. And don't be afraid to take risks. Like even in my own games, I've never really done voices, and I'm trying to do more voices now. And I kind of came to the conclusion that not everyone can do specific voices. That is a talent. Some people can kind of cultivate it and get better, but there's a large portion of people that they're just not going to be good at accents and replicating specific voices. But what I do believe is everyone can actually do voices. Maybe not specific ones, but they can make up voices and use them. And sometimes a little bit goes a long way. If you just use it for specific characters in your game, and like you said, is kind of coming up with a theme and sticking with it when you're doing it. You could where maybe you're writing down flavor text, not an idea per every encounter, but the overarching, like, this is what the place is like, and kind of reminding them of their five senses and things like that can kind of bring it home and kind of like convey that feeling of the place. And if you guys want to jump into roll call, we'll do that as we continue babbling away here for you guys. Zaref Gaming has a question. Any advice on creating an awesome character backstory? What is your approach to that one?
Well, I would say, as a person who almost exclusively DMs, work with your DM. But creating an awesome character backstory can start with just a seed. When you go into the first game or session 0, you don't have to have that full backstory already done. But you can let it sort of play out. And when an opportunity arises in the story for your character to have a connection, for your character to have a meaningful sort of emotional impact, then you can just say, well, there it is. That was that moment I was waiting for. That's what my character's backstory is. And then create it sort of as opportunities arise throughout the campaign.
I agree 100%. Leave open spaces. If you define everything, it doesn't leave anything to interject into the campaign later on that maybe you didn't think of, and maybe some of your ideas for the character has changed. So, and really, like, when you're talking about doing a backstory, like, who sees it, right? You're the only you and maybe your GM sees it. That's it. And really, if it's super long as a GM, I don't want to see it. I'm like, can you give me the crib notes on this? Like, I don't need 6 players handing me 3 pages each. But, and like you said, work with your GM. Maybe you guys can hammer out some cool things. I like to let them have some agency with that stuff.
Yeah, personally, I like to have every character have some degree of an epic backstory, meaning that they have some story importance. They have something to offer the narrative, the overarching narrative, and that's really difficult for a player to do before the game starts when they don't know anything about the narrative. In fact, it's impossible. When you start your backstory, you want to start with a kernel. You know, I'm a runaway, or you know, I'm a whatever. But you don't want to define every aspect of things in a way that sort of fences in your DM, that makes it just inflexible in a way that's not fun.
Well, and also like over the top, like, oh, I was a general. You're a first level. What were you general of? You know, you probably weren't very good. So like sometimes you get a player, they want this, like they want to give you the backstory that would be like the epic campaign arc of a high level character. But 5th edition really does a good job with your ideals, flaws, bonds, personality traits, and your background. Like already it kind of says where you came from, and you only need to add a little bit of that, and then you can build it over time.
Yeah.
So we've got staff editor Doug from Cleveland. We got Frigginator in Kenmore, Washington. AJ is in Lopez Island, Washington. We've got Chris Lynn in Houston. Raven is in Oz. Dylan, I'm a little skeptical on that one. Dylan is in Charlotte, North Carolina. We've got Lincoln in Sweden. Scratch Paper Games, Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. Houston, Texas in the house with Kelsey. New Mexico in the house with Zarif Gaming. Brisbane, Australia in the house with James. Todd is in Dallas, Texas. Patrick from Sweden. Where's Nordic Dragon at? That's like our last Sweden guy that shows up a lot. Kurt is in Emerald City, Oz as well, apparently. Very popular spot right now. They must have good Wi-Fi too. Mr. Blind Crow is in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. Oh, wait a minute. Saskatchewan, Canada, because he actually phonetically spelled it out for me.
Nice.
Brian in New York City. He must be tired of me butchering it. Nine Tail, 1717, Oklahoma. Wilder Smith is in New York. We got Tulsa in the house. Pokemon for WOT is in Brandon, Manitoba. Jinker GM is in Daggerdale. All these places, I would think that we get horrible Wi-Fi, but apparently it works out. We got Chris Washington in Commerce, Texas. And Niagara Falls, New York with Victor. And Jinker GM, Saskatchewan. Come on, guys. You can't teach me to speak. Like 42 years on this planet, I haven't figured it out yet. It's probably not going to happen. Maybe another 42. Lightfall somewhere in Massachusetts. We got Hamburg, Germany in the house with HD Dashwood. Awesome. We got people all over the place, which is always really cool. Yeah, Kurt, I kind of get it. I think you would say the way you become a general in the Middle Ages was the noble near and dear to the king. Not being a great warrior yourself, there was no professional modern military. Yeah, but still, like then why are you adventuring? You like didn't create an adventurer, so that like is kind of like the problem with that. Oh, Wi-Fi is magic based. Well, that would work. I could use some of that. We got
just use an Ethernet cord.
Yeah. We got London in the house with Dylan and Brian Kyle and late to the party, just up again. Welcome. And we also have Munster, Germany in the house with Eli or Ellie. I'm not sure which because I can't spell. Sorry, guys. My ninth grade education is failing me. I'm watching 2:30 in the a.m. James. Nice. I really do appreciate you guys chiming in from all over the place, especially in the wee hours for you guys that are overseas. And we also got Savannah, Georgia, and Nelson, British Columbia, Kyle, Tony Two-Step. Welcome, everyone. We are about halfway through, and we are hanging out with Oppressed by the Sun, Gabe. New podcast, new YouTube channel. It is in the description. You guys can check them out and show them some love. And so where are you going from here? Like, do you have a upload schedule planned?
Sure. Yeah, I'm planning for the podcast to upload every Saturday. Although I may have a bonus episode this week, hopefully, an episode 0 that introduces the characters and the background a little bit, since that was one of the comments I got. I also have the YouTube channel, and I'm hoping for once a week there. Yesterday I posted, I think, the first video, or maybe the second, but the first, really. Don't watch the first. I will be posting hopefully once or twice a week on the YouTube channel, just depending on how the inspiration hits me. I hope to have some guests, some of my players and some other people on the channel to talk about backstory, to talk about the previous campaign, how it set up this one, and a lot of other aspects of the game.
Everybody go to that first video, watch it, like it, and tell them to keep going. It's the only way you're going to get better. It's the only way to get better. And also, the only way to have people find your channel too is by talking about it and tell them to go watch your videos, not tell them to skip your first video.
Well, yeah. So watch all the videos.
Otherwise, you can just leave it on your hard drive, and it's the same thing.
For sure. I've seen the growth and development of a lot of these YouTube channels, and I hope to have something to contribute there. And hopefully I will get better as well.
Everybody does. Like, I've seen other content creators being like, I don't want to do this because so-and-so does this, or so-and-so does that. But, you know, at the end of the day, what people really want to know and what they want to hear is they want to hear your specific take on the thing, how you feel about it, because everybody's different. Every individual is different. People are going to relate to different people. There are people that are going to really enjoy your channel but hate our channel. There's people that, you know, really enjoy our channel but hate other channels, and it's just like everybody's different. So we're all going to connect with different people at different levels, and that's okay. People will leave me comments like, I hate you guys and I hate your channel. And I'm like, well, that's awesome, because there's a ton of other great content out there for you to go check out. Go check them out. And sometimes maybe I'll even list people for them to check out. But yeah, but at the end of the day, you know what? Not everybody is going to connect with each other, and it's okay. Just
absolutely true. For example, I mean, I connect a lot better with you guys than some of the other channels out there. I'm not sure if it's just the laid back style, the sort of I think we share a lot of views on gaming, but I definitely find that you know, you and Ted sitting together chatting is probably my favorite time on YouTube. But other people at work will see me watching that, and they'll be like, "What are you watching? Like,
why are you watching bearded dudes, fat guys?"
Yeah.
Raven, Shad brought me here. Well, thank you, Shad. Shad was nice enough to do a shout out for us a while back, and we actually, I think I saw you in the live chat when we actually had Shad on, which he was a fun guy to have on. He was awesome. One of the few people we actually switched up our actual time for. We're pretty tyrannical about not stepping out of the 12 p.m. Eastern time slot, so people know when to find us. It makes it a lot easier. So what do you do when, or if you don't mind talking about it, what do you do when you're not gaming and you're not podcasting?
I'm an attorney. I do business immigration, mostly from China. I speak Chinese, and most of my clients live in China, and they want to immigrate here.
Can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
You say "stay nerdy" in Chinese.
Nerdy. That's a really difficult word to. 坚持不要变. That means stay the same, never change. I don't know how to say nerdy in Chinese. I'm not even sure there is a word, but yeah, I do immigration, and mostly I just do document review, write letters every day. It has limited room for creativity and that kind of thing, and so I one of the reasons I was inspired to do this podcast and everything is because I've been GMing for a long time, and I wanted to grow further, to take it to the next stage. I think I've learned about all I can learn just doing it by myself with my friends, and I want to learn from the greater community.
Cool. So I just want to address the chat real quick. Both Tony Two Step and Kyle, thank you. And Kyle, it is my very high charisma score. That's how I persuade you. Or Or I've also been accused of being very stubborn, so that could be it too. Um, and also, I guess for people who are kind of like tuning in and watching this later, they're not going to actually see these comments. And Tony Two Step came over here from watching Dawnforge Cats, which thank you, Andrew and Kyle. I love Nerdarchy, even though it took me almost 4 months to sub. The different opinions is what nailed it. I don't always agree with Dave, but he has changed my opinion more than pretty much anyone. Like I said, I'm really stubborn, which is fine. And that's the thing that we try to really drive home here too, is like, you don't have to share our opinion. You don't have to game the way we do. We don't. I personally, I just generally don't care what other people do as long as it's not affecting other people negatively. So if you guys are having fun in your group and your game, who cares? Like, you're like, we use all the variant optional rules and we use hardly any of them. Doesn't matter. I'm not even playing in your game. Why should I care? But there's somebody out there who's going to want to argue with you as to why that's wrong. So
yeah, and I think that's part of what drew me in here to Nerdarchy. I mean, personally, I find that I agree with Dave almost every time. But that's mostly because I think Dave and I might have a similar sort of attitude in this. Where my friends call me domineering or sort of aggressive, maybe. I tend to talk over people. I don't know if Dave would admit that he does that, but I find that what other people do in their game doesn't matter to me at all. Unless it's better than what I'm doing and I want to adopt it. Otherwise, why would I try to stomp on their fun? I mean, for me, we've always tried to play a little bit grittier, a little bit more realistic game. And so we use the variant rules of 24 hours as a long rest and 8 hours as a short rest, because it allows me as the DM to push them to their limit with more encounters before they can regain all of their lost things. It also makes them ration their resources to a much more strict degree, and to a degree that I think adds like a strategic element to the game. But if you don't want to do that, like, fine, that's fine. I watched Chris Perkins DM his game with the non-variant rules, and it is awesome. And he manages to push them to their limit even with those regular rules. I think that it just makes it more challenging to do so with the regular rules. So I just use the variant ones, and I have no opinion about other people's games.
Exactly. It's like, as long the only thing I really have opinion on is, are you gaming, right? If you're gaming, awesome. If not, why aren't you gaming? And it's really weird that you're here at Nerdarchy if you're not gaming. But every once in a while we get that. Like, I've collected all the books through every edition, never played the game. I love it. I'm like, okay. It's weird to me, but whatever, each to their own. And I guess it's worth mentioning, guys, too, tonight, Save or Dice will be happening on the Twitch TV / Save or Dice. The journey continues, so you guys can check that out tonight. And I believe it's next week for Gen Con that we're taking off, because I think all of us but WebDM is going to be at Gen Con, so we can almost play the game live from Gen Con. But we're missing Jim Davis and Pruitt. And
you're missing the GM, so
yeah, it does make it a little tough without the GM. So what are you going to do? So that's gaming aside, being an attorney that specializes in contracts and stuff from China, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I enjoy the job, and I'm thankful to have it, but and you get to meet a lot of interesting people, because most of what I do is extraordinary ability visas, which it tends to be scientists and artists and those type of people, researchers, engineers, and I get to meet just a whole lot of really interesting, really cool people, and learn about their lives and help them immigrate. So it's really fun.
That is cool. So does that make does that stuff from your real life find their way into your game at all? Or do you ever like,
it absolutely does.
Wire foo?
It absolutely does. I mean, I have directors and art and actors and singers and all kinds of artists. I remember once I had a person who played a guqin, which is a traditional Chinese instrument. And in the game after that, I had a whole campaign, or not campaign, a whole adventure, a sort of adventure setting, like that one day, centered around them finding and figuring out the secret behind this secret magical weapon, or not weapon, but sort of magical item that had secret powers.
So, which form of Chinese do you speak? Which dialect?
Oh, Mandarin, the Putonghua.
Yeah. So does any of that, like your naming conventions and stuff like that, do you use it, slip any of that into your game?
There are Easter eggs for people who speak Chinese throughout my game. Yes.
Nice. Do you speak any other languages?
No, I don't. I studied Spanish for 6-8 years. And I did at one time work in a place where I had to speak Spanish primarily, but I don't remember it very well now. So I wouldn't consider myself able to speak it now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got me by like 2 languages, so I barely speak English, and I definitely do not speak Chinese. Matter of fact, when we were in Mexico, I just kept berating my children the whole time. I'm like, what am I paying my tax dollars for? You both have Spanish in school. You guys are useless to me, I tell you.
Well, having come from public schools where I learned Spanish, I could tell you that no, it doesn't work that way. You don't just like memorize some conjugations in class and then go down there and speak it. That's not how it works.
I want some of my tax dollars back.
Yeah.
So, also, guys, quick announcement. Friday, we're going to be just doing a live chat. There will be no gameplay. I think Bill's away on vacation, and they're kind of at a big spot, so I don't wait, get everyone back, and we will be off for Gen Con as well. This Monday, this Monday was me and Ted, so I think the Marvel game will be back on Monday. Professor Bill should be back from vacation, hopefully. And also, someone had asked what time the game is tonight. It's 9 p.m. Eastern time. You guys can tune in and check that out. Todd asked. So that should be a lot of fun. Hopefully you guys will be hanging out with us. Make sure you go share and subscribe over there. We've been having a lot of fun with that game. Can't wait to dust Jogo off after a week. So you say you're always the perpetual GM, huh?
Yeah, I've been a GM for 10 straight years. I never played in that time, so.
Never?
I'm trying to remember. There was talk of somebody running another game, but I don't think it actually ever materialized. So, no, I don't think so. Never once. I really encourage them. I have multiple times, in fact, begged someone to take over for a week or two, and nobody wants to do it. And I love DMing, and it's not a problem, but it's just sometimes that I just kind of want to play. And I don't even want to like interrupt my game. I just kind of want to add a game where I can play, but everybody seems pretty content with letting me do it.
Yeah, I know that play. Eventually, I put my foot down. I started making the other guys. I bullied them into DMing. So, yeah, one of them being my brother-in-law and the other one being my brother, I think it's totally acceptable. But which is good. So so now they both GM, and I play in a regular game of Ted's. And now, and actually playing in the Saver Dice game and having Jim Davis run a game for us is pretty freaking awesome as well. What was it? I already lost you. Oh yeah, Tony Two Step. Don't worry, man. They're recorded, so you can probably catch it on Twitch for a while, and then I'll move over to the Saver Dice channel. So you will definitely be able to catch up later if you're interested. But I understand too. Not everyone's into watching gameplays. They're a huge time investment. Like I feel bad for anyone who decides they want to get into Critical Role now.
Yeah, I had to quit Critical Role. It was too much time. It just 4 hours a week is too much.
True, mate. Sadly, we can't have a load of great DM friends who like to play as well, like Nerdarchy. It's easy. Just create a mildly successful YouTube channel, and the GMs will like start popping out of the woodwork. But you know what? Though, like to a certain extent, it's not even just that. It's just networking, right? If you have to network and hang out where people are doing the thing, and then you can find GMs. It's just a matter of time. And I find a lot of like I find that a lot of GMs just like when they meet new people, oh, I want to run a game for you, especially like when they hear when a GM, here's a story like, oh, I've GM'd for like 10 years, but I've never actually gotten to play a game. I think when people go hear that, they're like, oh, well, let me run a game for you. But apparently you haven't heard that yet. So.
Well, no, there was a couple of times where one of the players was like, yeah, I think I want to, I think I want to do it. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then, every week after that for like 3 weeks, I brought it up and he was like, and then it just sort of died. But I don't know. When you say you put your foot down, what do you mean? What did you do?
What did I do? I don't know, man. That was a long time ago. I am in my early 40s now, and that was when I was like in my early 20s. Yeah. So,
okay.
And even that, there was like a progression to it. And also like there was also a little bit of more willingness there, like because clearly there is definitely groups that'll be like, all right, we're just not gaming then. That rather than someone step up and take the reins. And that is why I got stuck DMing for so long and being the only DM is because it's like, well, I would like to play, but I want to game no matter what. And I wasn't willing to not game. So it took a while. It probably took like, a couple years before my brother or Ted, took over and started running some games.
Well, I didn't start as the DM. When my friends and I first got together, we had another friend who did all the DMing basically, and I played in all his games. He was a real rules heavy, real rules lawyer type DM, and just a really good DM. No question about it. But I wanted to take over because I wanted to change the tone and sort of make it more of a lighthearted affair. But ever since then. He moved away, and ever since then, nobody's been willing to do it. So, but I love it. I mean, I'm not complaining at all. Like, I think that if I only played, I'd get bored, because I need the creative outlet. I need the ability to think about world building, to create a new NPC every week. If I had to stick with the same character for a year, I think it would be tiresome after a while. I want to come up with two new NPCs every week and give them all a huge backstory and a chance to betray the party and all that kind of thing. That's what I'm looking forward to.
No, I totally agree. Like DMing is like this awesome outlet for people that want to be creative, but maybe you can't draw, maybe you can't sing or play an instrument, but you can GM, right? You can run games for your friends. You can create these stories, and it's also this unique space where you get to create the stories with them. It's not that you're just like writing a novel by yourself, but you get together with a group of people, a group of friends, and you guys all interact and work together to build this story. And that's really one of the most rewarding things about being a GM.
Absolutely. The whole cooperative storytelling aspect is because when I was in law school and stuff, I used to write sort of fantasy novels. But I got bored with that pretty quickly. There's no input from other people. There's no, the story sort of just grows a little stale for me. Like there's no, without sort of the constant surprises and constant input, there isn't the same engagement from me as a creator. So I really enjoy, I think that this collaborative storytelling type aspect is really, I mean, I'm obviously biased, but I think it's the best way to engage your creative facilities and outlet.
No, I have to agree. Who just asked that? Garrett Bragg. Yo, what do you think about this character concept? Multi-class gunslinger, 6 levels, the Matt Mercer version, and 6 levels of Warlock, Raven Queen, and Pact of the Tome. I actually like it. I just don't like the gunslinger that Matt put together, to be honest with you. I would rather, if I was playing a gunslinger type character, if I was GMing, I'd probably just reskin the Battle Master. I think the Battle Master does way cooler things than the trick shots that you get from the gunslinger that Matt Mercer put together. I do like the misfire rules, and I would definitely want to do something with that. And I probably want to make them even a little bit more random, because I feel like if you're using firearms, you're probably getting something that's slightly better. But that's just my opinion on that. I'm sure there's lots of people that disagree. They're gonna
I don't have much input on the gunslinger. Personally, I don't have guns in most of my games. Although we did play a modern game where it was a sci-fi high tech type game. That was interesting, but I've never played it in a fantasy setting. Now, as far as Warlock, the Raven Queen Warlock, I do love the Warlocks. I know they're not an optimized character, and they come down in battle. They come down to a Eldritch Blast machine, but most of my games aren't battle, if we're being honest. It's mostly interesting things, and if you create a Warlock who can alter self and trick everyone all the time, it can be a very, very interesting character. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of like the funny thing about Nerdarchy. We'll like tear something apart and bitch about it to no end, and then we like turn around and just play those characters all the time.
Right.
Like Brian was the biggest opponent for the sorcerer, especially the wild mage sorcerer, and that is his most played character in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I've actually never had a wild mage sorcerer in my game, but I really would love to have one. I would have them rolling on that table basically every time they tripped over a log or whatever. I think it would just be fun.
Yeah, we've kind of house ruled. I'm like, if you use your Tides of Chaos, the next time you cast the spell, you can have it back because you just triggered. So, like, he is always getting to use Tides of Chaos. He's also always having to roll on the Wild Surge table.
Yeah, I just think having that element of randomness, it really aids the storytelling. It adds just unpredictability and intrigue into the game that you can't replace with someone who's just controlling the narrative to 100% degree.
Garrett, Jonah Hex for inspiration is an awesome idea. I absolutely love it. Like I said, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like, listen, like we talk about stuff, and like I just said, we bash stuff all the time, and then we go and play that stuff because conceptually it's still cool, and we can still have fun with it. It's just sometimes we look at certain things and go mechanically, what were you guys thinking? You know, and the Warlock is really bad for that because you get so little spell use that when it does come to combat, and let's face it, there is a lot of combat in D&D for a lot of players, not all. So you're stuck with, okay, if you're going to be effective, what are you going to do? Well, you're probably just going to cast Eldritch Blast because it's the best thing they have. It's also one of the best cantrips in the game. It would have been, you know what it would have been really cooler if they would have done for the Warlock? If they were to create like maybe 4 or 5 of those, right? Equivalent to Eldritch Blast. They're really cool. They're really fun. They're thematic. And only the Warlock got access to it. So that they could have choices, and then like it would be some variants, and maybe some of them are close range or touch spells or something.
Yeah, I've had a blade, what is it, a Pact of the Blade Warlock in my game, and he ended up almost never using a blade. Although, you know, Witch Bolt and those kind of things are useful, but he runs out of them, you know, so fast.
Yeah.
And the I do think that a little bit of variety, maybe not 4 or 5, but 3 different choices for Eldritch Blast. And maybe you had to select one at 3rd and one at 7th or whatever, but something like that would be a lot more interesting.
Yeah, well, I just mean cantrips in general, where like because let's face it, because you only have so many spell slots, you're going to fall back on that pretty quick. So having like interesting choices would be cool, or building, or maybe if Eldritch Blast was a class feature, and there was options, like you said, and then, you know, so there were different options, so you could like have a different fallback position. Although I'm curious, with having a Warlock in your game and a short rest being 8 hours, did you do anything?
It was a huge advantage. It made the Warlock much more effective than, say, the Bard. Because an 8-hour short rest, you know, you're getting that every day, whereas you're not getting a long rest. And so the Warlock gets back his spell slots much more often than the other casters, like the Druid or the Bard. And so it actually helped balance the Warlock's overall spell count dramatically. It dramatically changed it from what you see other Warlocks able to do. Yeah.
So how many long rests in a session would your players get on average?
0 to 1.
Okay.
Usually 0 if I'm playing it right.
And then how many short rests? Like, so, I mean, I guess it's just how many days that when it was the course of the session.
Well, it's a desert world where the sun is out 16 hours a day. And I mean, the sun is so hot for about 10 hours a day, you cannot be outside. So there is a lot of incentive. There is like a forced short rest basically every day if they're traveling. In cities, it's different, of course, but I find that if I've got them on the run, remember, this is a campaign where the government is searching for them and the government controls everything. So I try to keep them on the run all the time. I try not to give them short rests whenever I can. It generally speaking, I mean, it really just depends. Like, it can range from 0 short rests to, 5, 6, 10, depending on how long they, just depending on the situation. If they're in a town, they're not getting any short rests because the government's going to find them if they're resting at all.
Tony two-step. Oh, your party is oppressed by the sun.
Exactly.
Well, he didn't lie. It's right in the name. So we are right around the hour mark, and I actually have to run out and go film some videos if you guys want to have videos to watch for next week. So we're on our way to do that. But I want to thank you for coming on, Gabe. I really have enjoyed talking to you. Thank everyone for hanging out. We've been kind of hanging around 50 viewers in the later half. Again, Savor Dice tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern time over on Twitch. It will be recorded, so if you miss it, you can always go watch that as well. And if you are checking out our Savor Dice game, please check out the sponsors, Fantasy Grounds, Pyromancer.com, and ThinkGeek, because they make it all possible for us. So with that, guys, until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.